Hey, I'm Ange.
And I'm Beck.
And we are the Gold Diggers, because we believe there's gold found in everyone.
Everyone is unique, interesting and exciting with a great story to share.
And we aim to find it.
The question is, can we rise to the challenge and strike gold? Stay tuned to find out as we chat to today's mystery guest.
Honey, you're my sugar.
So this is how it works. One of us knows our mystery guest and the other doesn't. And today it's Beck's turn to discover the gold in our special guest, Angela Pond. Welcome, Angela.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm very happy we have another Angela in the studio.
Yes, all these Angelas.
I know.
We had Angelique. Yes.
Angelique.
Ange,
Yes.
yes.
Does your name get abbreviated?
It does at times get abbreviated. Used to get abbreviated a lot with older people. I'm not sure why, but my grandfather used to call me Angie.
Angie.
Yeah. So,
I've always hated Angie.
Yeah,
when someone calls me Angie, I'm just like, grates on me.
Yeah, well, my grandfather could get away with it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can see why. So.
Grandfathers are good at abbreviating names, aren't they?
So Ange, I've just said it. So Angela has just turned 50 this year. Yeah. Has been married for 27 years to Michael and has 3 grown-up children.
Lovely.
That's it. Off you go. So good that you joined us today, Angela. So just to introduce you, you are a counsellor and wellness coach.
That's right.
Amongst many other things, one of which is you're also an entrepreneur. And I believe you and your husband started the dog food manufacturing brand Prime 100. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It was a bit of an unusual circumstance of how it came about. My husband was previously in a family business that was in the pet food manufacturing in WA, and they sold that. And we actually had a celebration and hung up his boots and celebrated that being the very end of our manufacturing journey. But yes, other things developed a bit later on down the track, and we got an invitation to partner with some other people.
And you went back into that, but you recently sold it during COVID, because apparently there was a big boom in the production of dog food. Is that right?
Yes, there was as a result of COVID, probably because so many people were locked away in their houses.
Yeah, well, it makes sense.
They had this idea of getting a puppy. So
I think a lot of people did that. Well, so that worked really well for the dog food industry. And so you sold your share of that, and now you currently run a business with your daughter, which is called Sila Wellness. I'm assuming that's in the wellness industry again then? Yeah,
that's right. Going back to our pet food, we sold 55%, so we still have a share in that. So we're still involved, but not involved a whole lot. And that's just opened the way for a new venture with my daughter. And that's really about us going into the space of doing wellness coaching, retreats and counselling.
So aside from that as well, you're also writing a book called Body Be Well. But really your biggest passion is swimming, from what I can tell. You've, in fact, it's not just swimming, but competing in swimming. And you've just come back from the World Masters Swimming Championship in Japan.
I got back on Saturday after a bit of a whirlwind trip there. That was my second time competing at a World Masters Swimming Championships. And it was actually the first time it was in Perth 2008, and that was actually what enticed me back into swimming. So I used to swim competitively when I was younger, and when I was 19 I quite badly injured my shoulder, and I actually thought that was the end of my swimming. So I had a very long break, and then in 2008 I was enticed back into the pool. My parents are both involved in masters swimming, and they encouraged me back.
I'm sure there's going to be a great story there. I'm always intrigued by people that are in any competitive sport, because I know that the physical toll it takes on you in every aspect of your life to be able to compete in sports is incredible. And hopefully Beck will get into the fact that around 18 you discovered a family secret, which I'm not going to reveal here, and I hope to see whether Beck can get to that.
Okay, I'm back.
I can see that.
I am, yes. And have I got a doozy question to begin today with?
Do you know, this is becoming a regular thing for Beck. She seems to have these amazing first questions, and it just seems to be so appropriate. Like, you know nothing about Angela.
No,
right?
absolutely nothing.
Okay, so let's see what you're going to come up with.
Okay. If you could describe yourself as a car, a vehicle, would you be a red-hot Ferrari, an off-road four-wheel drive, a family SUV, or a motorbike?
Oh, I think that one's probably an easy one. Probably a family SUV.
Nice. All right, what colour?
Probably white. Very practical.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that says a lot about you already, doesn't it? So you're a family woman. I
Yes,
reckon
I
you're
am.
fairly peaceful and organised.
Peaceful and organised. I've had to learn both of those. I wouldn't say I started that way.
Yeah.
But definitely living a more peaceful and organised life now.
Right. Here we go.
Yes.
All right. So what did your life begin like?
Well, I grew up in Western Australia, in Perth,
Yeah.
with my family of 3 siblings
Yeah.
and my mum and dad.
Were you the eldest? Or the
I was the middle child.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Fairly,
understand that.
yeah, yeah. Bit of the mediator and trying to, be the one that brings the calm into conflict.
Yes.
Is that what they say about middle child?
Well, you
I
watch.
think they're normally the one that causes the conflict, aren't they?
No, you watch the older one go through everything first, and then you make, some good choices from that.
I say that because I was the youngest. I was the baby. I was the favoured one.
Yeah. So I think we had a very simple upbringing, very close-knit neighbourhood. We spent a lot of time. I guess I probably appreciate the stability of my upbringing in being at the same school and being in the same home all of my up to the age of 12 before we moved just into a different area. I really appreciated that. And part of, I guess, when I grew up was sport became very important.
Right.
Yep. So swimming, got involved in that and competition.
Yes. So did that take you somewhere, that sport?
Well, I was certainly dreaming it would, like
Yeah.
a lot of young people when they get involved in sport. I was hoping when I was swimming, obviously the big goal is the Olympics that you put out there.
Yeah.
And that took me, I moved to a different squad a bit later in my swimming career. And unfortunately, I did get an injury, which ended my swimming training there. So I didn't really probably get so far. I got at a state level, but I actually got more interested in surf lifesaving. So I spent many years in surf lifesaving and pursuing that area.
It's interesting that all your sporting activities revolve around water and your last name is Pond.
It is. Well, I did marry into the name, and I thought it was very relevant because I do have a great affinity for water.
Is it something that attracted you to your husband?
Well, very superficial. It was, his good looks to begin with.
So where did you meet?
We met in the gym at the surf club.
Oh, nice. Near some water.
Yes, near some water. He was a paddler.
Yeah.
And he was actually aiming to go to the Olympics himself.
Wow.
So, yes, I guess I was admiring him from a distance for quite some time.
What is a paddler?
So for him it was kayak paddling, but there's different varieties of paddling. So surf ski, which is a different craft that they use in surf lifesaving. And then you have your flat water, which is kayaking. And he did both, and predominantly kayaking because you can only go to the Olympics with the kayaking, not surf paddling. so he just missed out on Barcelona Olympics. Yeah,
wow, that must have been a hard hit because there's a lot of preparation for heading to the Olympics, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. He made a decision when he met me that he was going to retire from his paddling, and that wasn't just because he'd met me. His dad at that time had quite a bad injury at work, and they had a family business at that point. And so he made the decision to return from the Institute of Sport where he was and to support his dad through that injury.
Right.
You mentioned that you had an injury which basically ended your career in swimming. Like, how was that for you to... The reason I asked that question is I was training for a half marathon recently. 2 weeks out, I got an injury. And I kind of feel like I had a taste what Olympians must go through when they train so hard, because the dedication for the training, you're up early hours of the morning, training hours and hours a day with this goal in mind, and then weeks out you get an injury and it shatters your dream. How do you recover from that?
I think looking back at it, I actually had a bit of a almost like a revisit to it, having just competed at the World Swimming Championships a few weeks ago for Masters Swimming. I got an injury 3 weeks out before the event, and what it brought up for me was actually how I ended my career in sport was 3 weeks out from a National Surf Lifesaving Championships. I'd made the Ironwoman semi-finals, and my injury was quite severe in my shoulder, and I did what a lot of probably teenagers do. I completely ignored it and just kept going. I didn't manage the injury well. I think that was a bit of denial, not wanting to really face the reality of what I was experiencing with the pain. And then when it ended, I don't think as a young person I actually dealt with it very well. I had a real crisis of identity, and I think I sort of just tried to find something else to really just put my whole self into to try and gain a sense of identity again. So I kind of had a moment recently where I got to revisit having a severe injury right before this race, an opportunity probably just to grieve the dream, not realising that you do, even as a young person, you put a lot into where you think you're going to go and what you're going to do, and it kind of becomes a death of a dream. And for someone who I wasn't at a high level, I wasn't at an Olympic level, so it's probably... the people around you probably think, oh, it's nothing much, just move on to the next thing. But yeah, for me, I would say it was a really significant dream that I had, and it was the death of a dream. And it probably took me a really long time to figure out where to now. And I think for a lot of young people in sport, they put all of their identity in what they do in sport. And yeah, that's something that I'm quite passionate about, in helping sort of younger people dig a bit deeper into that they're more than just the sport that they do or the performance that they give.
Right, yeah, because all your hopes and dreams are pinned on that, aren't they? And everything you'd worked for would be to achieve those goals. And when it disappears with an injury, you would be feeling quite lost. So at that moment, trying to find your identity again, what were the steps you took, and what did you put all your energy into?
So for me, I think, and a lot of young people, when you're putting a dream into sport, I think often it comes from a place of, you want to be that hero someone looks up to. We get a bit of a taste of that with watching the Matildas, and I've heard the comment made, our daughters are going to inspire to be soccer players. And so you want to be admired, and you want to feel special and important, and I think that's often what drives your desire when you're a young person. However, for me, it was just going a little bit deeper in looking at what your value is, and so for me, that was when I had children. So I got married and I had children pretty much straight away. and I poured everything into parenting, and I tried to juggle a career at the same time, and I wasn't very good at it. My heart really was to just want to be at home with my 3 kids and raise them.
Yeah, well, that explains the family car. Yes. Because when you were talking about sports before, I thought, well, maybe you're more of a, sports Ferrari girl. But yeah.
I was going more that direction, to be honest.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so now to the SUV, the family time of your life. So you've got 3 grown-up children now?
Yes, I've got 3 from 27 down to 20.
Oh, lovely. Yes. And so you... now that they've grown up, what do you find yourself? So you've spent a lot of time pouring into your family, which I love because I did that too. What has developed from that, and what do you find yourself doing now?
So what's developed from there, just probably give a bit of context about pouring my life into my kids. I actually homeschooled them for 9 years.
Oh,
so
nice.
For me, it was a bit more than just taking them to school. And I didn't really develop my career as such during that time. So I was, very immersed in not only being a mother, but also in educating them as well. And my real driving passion was to see them find out what they were really interested in. So my children have all sort of discovered that. And it turns out that my middle child, my daughter Brielle, she had done ballet for many years and with a dream of being able to be in a ballet company, and that didn't eventuate, and she ended up doing a business degree, and she really watched me find what was my next. So when we moved to Brisbane in 2016, I was a bit of at loss what to do. I was formerly a masseur, and I used to work for a physiotherapist, and my qualification was no longer current because I'd left it so long. So I got told that I needed to go back, start from scratch and redo that, which I thought, I don't think I really want to do that. So I then went back to study, and that involved doing a counselling degree, which took me 6 years to get to the point of finishing that, which I did last year. And my daughter decided that she would like to join me in a business. So we both have qualified as wellness coaches. We're really looking at bringing together our knowledge around health. That's something that we're both very passionate about. And so we're embarking on a new business together.
Oh, that's great. And what's the business called?
It's called CLR Wellness.
Yeah.
CLR meaning pause. It's about just stopping and being able to reflect on your journey of where you are in your health, and to make some new goals or to aim towards something that you would like to achieve in your health, so that your health doesn't hold you back from what other purpose and dreams you have.
Wow, that sounds so amazing. Like, you must have some great connections with the people you work with to dig that a bit deeper and to pull out what their true purpose is, I guess, going deeper with them and helping their health. Do you have any standout stories from your journey with that?
Well, probably a recent one that, and it's not so much like I think sometimes when people think about health, when they want to make some changes to the area of their health, people will often think of weight or fitness. For me, it's beyond that. It's also about your emotional well-being as well, and being able to take care of yourself, even in a lot of the practical ways. And I think mums in particular can put a lot of that on hold and put their kids first. And I got the opportunity to kind of combine some of my knowledge and wisdom of homeschooling with a homeschooling mum. And I went on a journey with her children, where she was going through some pretty challenging times, and the end result really for her was seeing her reconnect with her children. Her children were not in a particularly good place, but at the same time being able to look after herself in the journey, and just know not to feel guilty about that as well. I think that's one of the things that I really can take from my own journey of having a history of a couple of times of burning out. Of how do you do that journey and not get to the point where you're burning out, not looking after yourself along with who else you're looking after.
It seems to be a common thing that mums tend to put themselves last, I guess. What would you see as being some of the key factors that mums should be doing that they're not doing for themselves?
Oh, I would say it's probably different. I wouldn't put a one thing on it. I think each person is probably different in how, I mean, I've also seen the flip side where some mums can put themselves completely first before their kids as well. I think one of the keys is going back to your values. Like what do you value? What's important to you? I think it's from there that you can start to identify what it is that you need to change, and to see that whether are you living actually, whatever your values are you living to that, or is there a discrepancy in it? So some people talk about, that they want to, be fit, but they're not actually putting that as a high value. Yeah. And to look at, well, why is that?
So talking about going back to your values, you did mention before that a few weeks ago you were competing in a swimming race again. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is, yep.
Yeah. So have you continued swimming during that time, or is that something that you've just come back to now that your kids have grown up?
I actually came back to that in 2008. That was during the time that I was homeschooling, and I actually was doing no exercise at all. Yeah. So after I finished swimming, I was pretty disillusioned with it all. And I was gardening. That was probably the only gardening, and doing a little bit of walking, but really not much else in the area of fitness. And it was my mum who was involved with Masters Swimming who just kept kind of saying to me, you're not really looking after yourself in the way that others, trying to say that in the nicest way possible. Yeah. And she would just come past, because she actually used to live down the road from where I was, and she would just say, I'm going to the pool. Do you want to come along? And I'd say, no, I've got to do this or whatever. Anyway, in 2008, they held the World Master Swimming Championships in Perth. And so they only get held every second year, and they're often in all different places in the world. So it was pretty amazing that they were in my own hometown. So that was enough to get my attention and
inspire you.
Yeah, inspire me. And my parents have both been in Masters Swimming for as long as I can remember. Yeah. So they've both been very active. And we used to finish swimming training and they'd have their sessions after. And it was always a very fun community of people. They would go away together on trips, and there'd be a lot of laughter. And so I eventually went, all right, Mum, I'll go with you. So, yeah, that got me back in 2008. And pretty much from there, I really realised one of the mottos of Master Swimming is fun, fitness and friendship. And I think I really began to discover beyond fitness, the fun and the friendship. And that's actually probably what I needed more than just the fitness. Yeah. So Masters Swimming became my every Saturday. I would go swimming with my friends and we'd have coffee and muffins after.
Nice.
And a good chat.
Yeah. Sugar-free muffins.
No, not sugar-free muffins, but we just swam, so it was all right.
Yeah, great. So you've been doing that for quite a few years now, so I'm thinking swimming is still a big part of your life then. And
I think it's become more of a passion, more because I think when you go to a Masters Swimming event, you get the opportunity to see, like we had 80, 90-year-olds swimming, doing just things that I think are amazing for their age. Yeah. And I think Masters Swimming has always inspired me because I look at women that I think that is amazing. They just did 200 butterfly and they're 80.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah, I find myself surrounded by older people who inspire me that I think I want to be 80 and still in the pool and still swimming. And I guess swimming is one of those sports that you can do right up to the day you die.
It's so good for you, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Did your children take on swimming as well?
None of them.
No.
So you just recently said you competed in Japan, but again, you told me that you had an injury just a few weeks prior to that, and you said the flashback to previously when you had an injury and that, but you actually still went ahead and competed. So what was the difference this time? Because it was quite a severe injury.
Yeah, it was. I injured my lower back. Was actually doing some weight training, and yeah, it was bad enough to have me flat on my back for a week, and it crossed my mind that I wouldn't be able to go, because even the flight, on being on a long flight for that amount of time, I went to see a physio, and I think just getting some good treatment. But I think mindset is also, and that probably draws on my coaching skills as well, as far as looking at what my mindset around. And I just 100% focused my mind. I could see myself competing. So what do I need to do to be able to do this? And the physio said, well, you're looking at least a 4 weeks recovery from this injury. And I just looked at him and said, you reckon we could do it in 3? So, just went to physio regularly, did my rehab exercises, and I guess pulled on all the skills that I know of how to recover from an injury. And my husband actually was probably my main inspiration during that time, because he's a former, he paddled at a very high level, and he would just coach me in walking up the stairs properly, literally how to just make sure that I was protecting my back.
Yeah.
And he also supported just in, like, don't worry about doing like any of the jobs, cooking. He cooked for me. So I think it was a team effort. It wasn't just on my own. I think my husband,
he wanted to see you
recover.
recover.
He really wanted to see me recover and support me. So he got to go on this trip with me. And that was pretty significant, because we've gone through a really busy season with business, and for him to get away for 3 weeks, that hasn't happened for a very long time. So it was really special.
So there was something in it for him, really, wasn't there? Like, if you weren't going to compete, then there was no point going to have a trip.
Yeah, that's right. We were having a holiday after to explore Japan. So
That's right.
Yeah.
Get better, Ange.
Yeah.
And so what does your husband do?
We have a pet food company that we still have shares in, and we originally moved to Brisbane in 2016 so that we could pursue the growth of that business.
Yeah.
He has been the CEO of that for the last few years, and he's been in a transition time of handing that over. We sold just over half of that business in 2021. And he's been gradually, bit by bit, taking a step back from that. This trip was sort of probably symbolic of him taking a position where he's just consulting now occasionally for the business and not hands-on. So
I was just saying in the intro that surprisingly the pet food industry grew quite significantly through COVID.
Yeah.
Because people were buying puppies.
Yeah, true.
How funny is that?
Yeah.
Like, there are a few industries that actually saw growth through
through
COVID.
That kind of makes a lot of sense, though, doesn't it? Because if people were locked in and they'd want some company, they'd want to have a pet, wouldn't they? Yes.
Yeah. And I think maybe they had time to do a bit of research into pet food maybe as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like organic pet food or...
Oh, well, we actually specialise, our sort of niche was in the area of dermatology, so dogs with skin issues.
Yeah.
So we had some connections with a vet at Murdoch University in WA that my husband's worked with for a long time. And he could just see a real need for a pet food. The vets had to come up with an elimination diet often when they're doing treatment for dogs with skin allergies. So, yeah, he just had the idea of, well, what happens if we could come up with something that people didn't have to go home and make. So prior to that, people were having to go home and make up a certain dog food that they could go on to see what the dog might be allergic to. So, yeah, it kind of came out of that. Yeah. It was our little area of niche, and it's just taken off from there.
Oh, great.
Do you even own a dog?
Well, yes, absolutely. We have two miniature schnauzers that were our tester dogs.
Yeah, right.
So they have, certainly earned their keep.
Nice. And they enjoy the food.
Oh, yeah, they're on it 100%.
Great. So it sounds like this latest trip with the swimming was maybe a reigniting of your dream that died many years ago?
Yeah, probably a reigniting, but also it probably looks different. Yeah. So the motivation behind it, when I was younger, it was, so that I could feel probably important. Yeah. Now it's more just about the community that I get to do it in, the people that I meet from around the world. It's the whole experience. It's not just the race on the day.
And how did you actually go?
I did well, considering that I was injured leading up. I had a couple of goals. I had so you get to race 5 races at a maximum. It goes over. I think we were over 7 days, and I wanted to be in the top 10 for my age group. So I was going into a new age group, and I also wanted to break the 30-second record. 30 seconds for 50 metres freestyle. I unfortunately didn't do that. I did a slightly better time, so I've still got that one as on my list to do. Yes. But I got a 4th in the 100 metres freestyle, a 6th, 8th and 10th and a 14th.
Great.
So I was really happy, and 4 out of my 5 I got in the top 10 in the world for my age group.
Congratulations.
But what was more exciting for me is Nova Radio decided to do a promotional event, and Susie O'Neill decided to get back in the water and swim a race. Yeah. Well, she happened to choose the 50 metres butterfly, which I was in that race. So it was like, oh, great, might be racing against Susie O'Neill.
Right.
So,
did you beat it?
So I'll be one more down.
Yeah, that's right. But the great thing about that was I got to meet her. She was in the race before mine, and really cheering her on, because we all were hoping that she was going to break the world record. Yeah. There was no way I was anywhere near it, so I was quite happy for her to do that, and she did.
Oh,
so
amazing.
She has been swimming all that time, but she hasn't raced. So it was just, it was amazing to watch her swim, only the second competitive race since she's retired, and to see her, get a world record.
Now, a butterfly stroke is very taxing on the lower back, or on the back, I would imagine.
Yes.
And it held out okay?
It did help. Yes, it did. It was only for 50 metres 1 lap, so I'm glad it wasn't any more than that.
Yeah. Wow.
So you were saying before that you just saw yourself racing. So you just pictured yourself in that race, and you were determined to win. Not to win, but determined to be in that water, injury and all. So what do you see for your future? Do you have a vision of where you're heading from here? My husband and I are taking a bit of a different. We're actually taking this year to do what it is that I guess preach within my business, which is to take a bit of a pause and to have a real look at where we're going from here. And I think we really want to draw on our skills in the fact that we've been successful at business, and I think one of the key things for my husband and I is our marriage through it all. We've seen a lot of family businesses where couples have been really successful, have had good businesses, and then maybe after the business sells, unfortunately, it's all too common that marriages don't often survive after that time. And, it might be there's a bit of a loss of identity around when someone's been in a position of running their own business, and you have a shift in that. And I think that my husband and I have been very intentional and purposeful in just making sure our marriage is in a good, strong, healthy place. Mm-hmm. And we have a passion to want to help other couples to be able to do that.
and to make sure that they're doing family life well as running a successful business.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so I think that all too common. I mean, having said that, we've lived that out pretty much all our married life. We've seen where business can take over and make family life kind of second.
Yeah.
And we've had to really learn and work hard at, well, how can we make sure that we don't neglect family life in the busyness of running a big company.
And how did you balance all of that?
I don't know if balance was what I was able to achieve. I think I probably ran with some strong principles or values around what was important. So for me, I made a decision a long time ago that building the character of my kids and myself was what was going to be the most important thing. And I made that decision based on probably just from watching and observing people, seeing people who are very influential, sometimes come to a point in their lives where they got exposed on something, where their character just really let them down. And that was just something that I really took away, that I'm just like, regardless of what we do, whether it's sport, business, whatever you're trying to do and succeed, I just kept coming back to, what's the most important thing for me is that I would often think, I probably think ahead a lot, I think. I would think about, one day when I'm an older person, I want my kids coming to visit me, I want to be around laughing and having fun with family and having a close family.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't just happen, you have to actually be intentional about building a family culture and instilling that and taking the time to really listen and value the people within your family.
Was that different to kind of your upbringing?
Yes. Yeah, it was.
I'm just guiding you there, Bex.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Even though, I mean, family-wise, we did do things together, but I think like a lot of families, we probably lived a bit of a disconnected life. Very easy for it to happen, you all get involved in your own different things, and before you know it, you're not actually having a lot of time together. So I don't think it's, intentional not to be close. I think life just pulls you in lots of different directions. And again, we've had to sort of later in life work hard at keeping family connections. Within my own personal family, we had a bit of a different thing happen, is that I found I had an extra sibling member at the age of 18, which my mum sat me down and told me that I had a brother I didn't know about. Yeah. So that probably was a bit of a moment where that.
Was that a shock to you?
Oh, that was a huge shock.
Yeah,
no idea. Huge shock. No idea whatsoever. No. So to be sat down and said, well, here's a photo of your brother, and he wasn't just a half brother; he was full, sibling. Yeah, right. He looked very much like us as siblings.
Had he been adopted out?
Yeah, he was adopted out when my mum was very young, when she fell pregnant with him, and in those days back then, a lot of women went to a woman's home where they gave their child up for adoption, and they were often very much convinced that that was in the best interest of the child. Later on, my mum found herself pregnant again, and this time my dad didn't want her to go through that again, and they married. However, that experience absolutely affected my family. I would say that was a trauma in my family that now that I know all the story, my family life makes more sense. Whereas probably prior to not knowing, I didn't understand probably the dynamics that were going on in my family. But now.
So if you had a photo, was that as a baby?
No, I got a photo of him. I was 18. He would have been about 24. Yeah, I just remember him getting a photo of him sitting in a fishing boat.
So he'd reconnected with the family, or?
Yeah, so what happened was originally the laws were that they couldn't make any contact, and mothers who had relinquished their children really fought hard to get the ability to be able to make contact again. So the law changed in the 80s, and my mum had written into whatever government department it was, and my brother had written in as well. So how it worked was if both wrote in and said, yes, we would like to meet up, then they connected them together, which is what had happened. I wasn't aware of kind of all of that happening. So when Mum told us was when she'd already made contact and had been writing to him for a bit of time, and he wanted to come and meet us. So that was at the point that she told us.
Wow. So what was that like, that first meeting with him?
Oh, very surreal. Yeah.
He looked like you. And
what were the emotions going on with you when you first of all?
Very excited. The funny thing was, as kids sometimes, I remember thinking, I wonder I've got a twin that I don't know about. I think it came out of watching some of those movies, you know.
Yeah.
So here I was in that situation of I had imagined in my mind, maybe there's another child that I don't know about.
How strange is that?
Yeah, so
you knew deep down.
Maybe, I don't know. But it was very exciting, but confusing. I think that was the thing.
Did you question why they'd kept it a secret for so long, or?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But because there was so much pain tied around it, I could see that it was a very painful thing for my mum. That probably prevented me from asking too many questions. I think I tried at the start, but I could tell that it was not easy for her to talk about.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as a family, we didn't get family counselling during that time, which I think would have been really helpful for us to talk about what did it mean for us.
Yeah.
So that, I think that was probably part of the reason I went in to do counselling, really. I think there was part of me that was probably searching for some answers and some healing to what my family had gone through.
Yeah, right. And what form did that take in your family? So you said the first 12 years was nice and stable, everything was a lovely upbringing for you, and then I guess from there on in, there must have been a bit of upheaval around this child coming back into the family. How did the family react to that? How did it change the dynamics between you all?
It was different for, I think, each of my sibling members, because I had my younger brother and my older sister, and my brother, who was adopted out, he made the decision not too far down the track he was in Adelaide, that's where he was born, and he made a decision to move over to Perth to be with us. And he ended up down the track changing his last name to our family name, and it was kind of like he slid into our family. Like, for people who'd probably met us later, they thought just that he was another sibling in our family. But I think there was a level of awkwardness in it, that because we'd never talked about some of the hurtful things around it. So, for example, when it would come to my brother's birthday, that would be a really awkward moment because it wasn't really a celebration for him.
Yeah. Had he had a bad upbringing where he
well, my mum obviously had really hoped that she had made a decision for him to be given up for adoption, that it would be a better life for him. Unfortunately, his mother who raised him had some mental health issues. We did get to meet his dad. Unfortunately, he died of cancer actually not too long after we had met my brother, so we didn't get a lot of time to actually get to know him. And so his home life, from what I understand, was not so stable. So that was not so easy to be able to hear that.
So are we ready for some gold, do you think?
Yes. So, Ange, I can see from your life, like, I think once you hit those teenage years and this upheaval happened, and meeting your brother, pulling him into the family, then having the injury that shattered all your dreams and hopes of going to the Olympics, it would have been quite a difficult time for you to have to deal with, and all of that all at once. And then I love how you basically see a vision of what you want and then you step into it. So then you put all your time and energy into building a great family, and the family that you had envisioned, and you put all your love and attention and created what you could see in your own children, digging in, finding their gems, their purpose, what they're good at, because you knew it so well in your upbringing that your parents had obviously invested into bringing up your skills in swimming, only to have that dash with the injury. But then you use your energies to do the same for your children and pull the best out of them, which is a very honourable, beautiful thing to do. And then to build a business together with your husband, a successful business, successful family, and a successful marriage. 3 beautifully important things in life. And now to be at a stage where you can revisit those initial dreams with the wisdom of the years, I guess, and enjoy the fullness of it more so than just wanting to do something that made you feel important. It's more about community, like you said, about the people that you go through life with, and just being part of something bigger. And now investing into other people and helping them to have those important values poured into their life through your own experience, and with their marriages, with their health, with their families. And I see that you've just taken everything that has been, and now you're pouring it back out onto others while it's still continuing in your life. And I think, being a visionary person, I think the rest of your life is just going to be so beautifully played out with these foundational steps that you've built along the way.
So that was a beautiful summary. Thank you.
I know. I was thinking, wow, that was quite a summary. And to me, you get a gold medal because you homeschooled your kids for 9 years. That's well, I could have done it for 9 minutes.
And being like in the top 10 swimmers in the world for your age, that's incredible.
It is.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And going against the odds with an injury again, like to be in the top 10 with an injury, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was thinking that song, I get knocked down, I get back up again. I think that's one of the things.
You've got this beautiful, calm determination, don't you? It's like you're all cool, calm and collected, but you've got this strength and drive inside of you that just keeps you going.
Yes, and your goal this year, isn't it, for your 50th year, is to do 50 days away.
Yes, I made my husband, like, he was a bit like, oh my goodness, what is this? So I said, I want to do 50 days away this year for every year that I have been on this earth. So yeah, he has been so just gracious in allowing me to do that. So I've been to Tasmania for the National Swimming Championships, Fiji in May, which I did a swim through with my mum during that time, Japan, and a little bit later in the year we're going to be in Dallas, Texas, which is not for swimming. So I've kind of achieved all the swimming goals that I had for this year.
So your mum's still swimming, and how old is she?
Yes, mum is, I hope I'm going to get this right, mum, 73, I think.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And your dad still swims too?
Yes, my dad actually was with me in Japan, and he cleaned up. So he is he's turning 75 actually at the end of this month, and he got 4 gold medals and 1 current record for his age group.
Amazing.
So, yeah, he did
big
very
shoes
well.
to fill then.
Yes. He was wanting to beat me in the 50 free, which I managed to just do faster times than him. So there's a little bit of just healthy competition between the two of us.
And maybe even though your children didn't walk in those footsteps, maybe your grandchildren will.
Oh,
Who knows?
maybe. Yeah. I did have to wait until Dad was 70 before I did beat him in the pool. And so I think he's been very ambitious in hoping that his times would stay. But age is catching up with him.
Well, that's given you some healthy competition and some good goals to be moving towards in the future. So to be as fit and healthy as your parents, I'm sure that would be a great achievement.
Yeah, they have. They've set a very, very good example in that area.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Angela. It's so good getting to know you.
Yes, it was lovely meeting you, Ange. And I wish you all the best in the future.
Yes.
Thanks.
And
very
enjoyed
much.
Dallas, Texas. I was just there earlier this year. So, yeah, it's
Get a
You'll be able to give me
cowgirl
some
hat.
tips.
yeah.
Honey, you're my sugar.
I bet you're putting pressure on me. Those first questions are so creative and really good. I'm thinking like, I'm falling short here. I'm going to have to up my game.
I honestly don't know what that question is until about 2 seconds before I walk in this room.
Well, you did brilliantly. I thought it was a great question, but I was going to go the Ferrari. Come on, a red Ferrari. Who'd say no to that?
I know, and being a sportswoman, it's like a sports car for a sportswoman, but obviously family is so important to her.
Which came through
Yes,
strongly.
it really did. And for a woman who juggles so many things, she's found really great balance in her life, hasn't she?
Yeah, well, I love what she says about taking that pause, and even that seems to be the year that they're in. They've taken some time out just to reassess what does this season of your life look like. Their kids are grown up, they've been successful in business, things are working well for them. They're at this it's probably one of the best times of their life ahead now, that they can just get to enjoy the fruit of all their hard work.
That's right. And I love that her parents are still swimming in their 70s. And that's great determination on their behalf that you can see has been passed through to Angela and her kids. So.
I imagine that's really special for the family, is the fact that parents and their daughter are enjoying the same sport, travelling to the same events, and still actively involved in each other's lives. That must be such a joyful thing.
So special, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just to be able to do that part of their life together.
Yeah.
And cheer each other on.
And her dad's killing it, clearly,
Amazing.
with all the
4 gold medals. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, I really enjoyed
But I
listening.
also loved what she talked about with overcoming an injury.
Yeah.
And so the first time that she got an injury, it killed her career. The second time, just this last time she got an injury, she was like, no, that's not going to spoil the outcome. I'm going to go. And she started to visualize her being in the race. Yeah. And it happened. And so I just think there's so many lessons, not only that she's learnt through that, but she's actually applied.
That's right, yeah. And her husband visualised going on that holiday too.
Yeah.
He was going to get her better.
You're getting better because I'm going to Japan.
We're going to Japan.
So that's it for today's podcast. You'll find us on all the major podcast platforms. The podcasts come out every Wednesday. We'd love to hear from you on our socials, the Gold Diggers Podcast. Tell us about your story so we can find the gold in you.
Easy as pie, lemon, apple or cherry. Loving you is so very sweet, sweet, sweet. How can it be such a piece of cake? And your smile is the icing. Loving you is a party. Honey, you're my sugar.